Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA Edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith, getting ready to go over this big slate for Wednesday, November 13th. Should be a fun one. Yesterday was a disaster if you went and played Giannis, who was very pedestrian. Yeah,
He could
hindsight,
not have been
Taylor,
more pedestrian
I know. I mean,
than he was.
we talked about it as it was happening. We just couldn't believe how meh he was. He was good. He was a good play. He was a great play. But boy, did I regret it as it was going. And then, of course, not just was Giannis a bust, but like every other solid option, like Franz Wagner, like all these other guys that we talked about that we liked.
Curry.
Yeah, of course, Steph. Like everybody went off. And like, sure, we went over a bunch of those guys and we liked them a lot, but it's sometimes you just got to play the best plays. Like Devin Booker was one of those best plays with Giannis. He did pan out 50 for 8.8. I think that works out just fine. So if you got away from Giannis, you probably had a good night. If you played Giannis, you maybe barely cashed. Hopefully, I don't know. I did barely cash, somehow backed into it. It's because I had Chef Curry closing out the night with 37 real points. Anyways, we're here to walk through the slate, give you free advice, look at projections, ownership, all that cool stuff, and hopefully point you to a good process, good picks, and help you win. So it's free advice. Smash that like button and also subscribe to the channel if you want to get alerted to more video breakdowns like this. We cover NFL and NBA as they are both in season right now. We'll have a Thursday night football video out before Thursday night, and we'll also have the main slate covered. And we do NBA every single day like we are right now. So for the bigger videos we do position by position. So let's get started with SGA at point guard, leading the way at that position. He is 7 fantasy points above everybody else at the position. He is going to carry ownership at 15%, as he should. He has a monster usage rate. It's like 36% or something with Chet not there. And he was always above 30% this year anyways. Coming off a 76-point fantasy outing, he gets the Pelicans, who are very dead. It seems like they have nobody healthy. So let's just start with SGA. Are you firing up SGA on this slate? Why or why not?
Yeah, I am. The matchup's like phenomenal. The Pelicans, like you said, have nobody. They are already a bad defensive team. It's basically a G League team right now. So don't see any reason not to. I guess the thing you could worry about is a blowout. Oklahoma City might be the best team in the league, but they are without Chet. So they're not exactly at full strength either.
15-point spread, though. 15.
Yeah, I mean, well, I thought that about the fucking Boston game, and then Atlanta won. So
that's true. Yeah, and then they lost at home.
Yeah, they did.
Crazy.
So, you can talk yourself into the blowout angle, but someone's got to still score points for Oklahoma City. He gets a usage boost without Chet, so fine with it. He and Giannis are going to be the top 2 plays on the slate. As much hate as I feel in my soul for Giannis right now. But yeah, Shea's a fantastic play.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know for sure. Like if I'm doing a single entry, I don't know for sure if I'm getting to him, but I do prefer him to Giannis. If I'm looking at the top studs right now, I'll just tell you, I'm going Wemby, SGA, Giannis. I'm going to play the ownership game. If Giannis is again going to carry a lot of ownership, he's just really expensive. I'm just going to pay $1,000 less and get 2 guys who are fully capable of matching him. Now, the other day we had SGA and Wemby on the same slate, and we were debating, do you go after both studs? And like yesterday, obviously it was Luka and Giannis as well. So yesterday you did not have to do that. The other day with SGA and Wemby, you did. You definitely needed both SGA and Wemby if you were going to get a takedown in a big contest. Maybe in single entry, that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, you have to kind of decide what you're going to do. I think you need one of these guys on this slate. But the big question is going to be, do we get more than one? And who do we prioritize? So right now, I'm probably Wemby, SGA, then Giannis. But look at everybody else at point. There's a lot of good options at point guard. Right away, James Harden is not that far away from SGA. He is 7 fantasy points below, but pushing for a 50-point fantasy projection. He has a massive role at 9.6K. Cade Cunningham remains unbothered. Brandon Ingram is his price is up to 8.8K, but the Pels are dead. If they can keep that game close, he should be okay. Jalen Brunson, though, at point guard might be my favorite play, and this is another reason why I'm kind of okay with riding with what looks to be an overlooked Wemby as my stud, because Brunson is basically a stud on this slate, coming with a 46-point fantasy projection. He is going to be owned at 18% because the matchup with the Bulls is amazing, but he's probably my favorite point guard on the slate.
Yeah, we just got the injury report, and he's questionable. So
Brunson?
yeah,
Come
obviously if he's
on.
out, then it's all Miles McBride all day. I
Oh yeah, of
guess
course.
point guard.
Gosh, dang. Okay, well,
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean Brunson. I feel like he's the kind of guy who's normally going to play through an injury, so we'll see what actually happens. Oh, Deuce McBride also questionable. So that's cool. Both point guards are questionable. I guess it would be campaign if those two guys are out. It's getting pretty
Yeah.
gnarly. We also have Embiid and Paul George out, Jaden Ivey out, Tim Hardaway Jr. out. So
Well, all these other
Detroit
Knicks
has
guys
some
look
value.
awesome if Brunson
Well,
is
yeah,
out.
Brunson being out would also clear like Cat and Bridges and
Right.
Anunoby for more usage, especially Cat, I would think. So we'll see what happens there. The Piston stuff is something. Oh, campaign is questionable too. Okay, the whole Knicks point guard rotation is questionable then.
Well, somebody's
And
like,
they have the
whoever
best
plays
possible
is going to
matchup.
be looking pretty darn good.
Yeah, Brunson I am getting a lot of right now. He's been kind of mediocre with Cat in there. Obviously, that's a big usage source, taking some away from Brunson. But if he plays, the minutes should be fine. The matchups, the dream matchup. Oh, Fontecchio's out. God, Fontecchio was like my favorite play on the slate, and now he's not even in. So,
What was the
so
Pistons
much for
news you were
that.
saying?
Jaden Ivey's out, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s out, and Fontecchio's out. So they are pretty thin. Oscar Thompson obviously still out as well, but
Malik Beasley season? Ugh.
Marcus Sasser.
Yeah.
I guess it would be Malik Beasley.
I mean,
Ron Holland,
4.2K,
perhaps.
35 minutes last game. I don't hate it. Revenge at Milwaukee.
Chalky Malik Beasley feels really bad, but
Well,
I
we'll
get it.
see. We'll see if that is even the case. But I mean, he's 4.2K.
I mean, they're
Anyways,
so thin that
I know.
Cade's going to see more. Cade looks like a good play either way. Like with Ivy out now, he's going to look great. The Bucks are horrible defensively. Although I guess you could argue they're better without Dame defensively.
They looked decent last night. All the Raptors had was Grady Dick getting to the line a million times. Like that's it. It's not like he was playing that well. He shot 16 freaking free throws.
Cade's been awesome this year anyway. So like, I think he's a pretty phenomenal play with Ivy out. That's going to be a lot of usage for him. Maybe Tobias gets a bit more. I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but there's a lot of injury news happening right as we're doing this.
Well, we're still on point guard here, and there's no doubt about it. If a lot of the ownership is going to flock to SGA, Harden, and perhaps if Brunson is still in, Cade's absolutely going to go overlooked. Now, those injuries for the Detroit could, have people flock over to Cade as well, but he's more expensive than Brunson and not that much cheaper than Harden. So I don't know. I think he could still go overlooked.
Maybe, but I don't really care about the ownership. I think he's going to be pretty awesome no matter what.
Yeah, but my main point here
too, like Philly without Embiid is not a good defensive team at all, and Cleveland has been the best offensive team in the league this season. Mitchell and Garland are still kind of affordable. Mitchell in particular looks underpriced. Kind of got off the schneid in the last game. Both are point guard eligible. I think those are strong kind of mid-range guys you can look to as well.
Yeah, I literally on that slate against the Bulls, I think that was one I did the video by myself. I said it is not fun to click Mitchell's name because he has shown like basically no ceiling. He had one game over 45 fantasy points the entire year. And I said, but of course he's facing the Bulls, so this is the game he's going to nuke the slate, and he got 60. So it's just always is the case. Obviously, major blowout risk in the Philly game. No Maxey, no Embiid, no PG-13. Like I don't really want to play Cavs. I mean, the matchup is definitely better than the numbers would suggest with all those guys out, but it also is a game that could be over by halftime, So I think it's a game where you can play like one Cav guy that you really like, and then maybe look at the Sixers value just because there's going to be a lot of cheap guys that are going to get burned in that game. But I'm not going to play like old sad sack Kyle Lowry.
I mean, Jared McCain is going to be the guy, right? Like,
he looks like the
awesome
play
now.
And he's only like 4.5K. We're bouncing around a little bit here. Well,
he's a point guard, so also like
that's true. It's extremely relevant. You're right, and I did mention Lowry, who unfortunately is kind of relevant as well.
We also haven't even mentioned Ryan Rollins, who's questionable, but he's still 3K flat, and Dame is out, and Rollins looks pretty good last night. But if he's out, I guess they're down to like AJ Green.
I hate Doc Rivers so much. The previous 2 games, Rollins barely played at all. He started and played 12 minutes the game before, and then this game he plays the whole game basically. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and he was filling it up.
What were his minutes? Only 22 minutes, but he got hurt in the fourth quarter. So he said he expects to play. It's only a shoulder issue too. So as long as he can tough it out, 33 fantasy points in 22 minutes, 5 steals. Yeah, at 3K, I think Ryan Rollins is a lock for me on this slate.
Yeah, he kind of has to be.
I don't see why not, to be honest.
3K flat, you're not going to find anything else.
Gosh, with him and all this other value, this is a 2-stud night. It is a stars and scrub night, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be wild. There's not even that much to pay for. Like, you have Wemby and you have Shea, and I guess Tatum, but I don't know.
Oh man. Okay. Again,
Giannis.
There's so much to like, actually. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I do know Ryan Rollins at 3K flat is a lock for me. And Jalen Noel, he's also point guard eligible. Fellas have nobody. Jose Alvarado, our hero. Our hero, our knight. He was like the smashiest of all plays, even at like 6.2K the other day. Got 5 fantasy points and got injured. Now he's out for like 3 weeks. Jalen Noel played 22 minutes last week with that injury happening. I would imagine he starts and plays 30 plus minutes.
I think you have to play Noel at shooting guard probably, just because that position is a lot shittier than point guard. Like, point guard has a lot of point guard only guys.
That's fair.
Jay and Garland and Brunson and Halliburton. But
we'll get to shooting guard in a second, sir.
Cade.
All right, so there are other guys in the mid range for point guard that are still appealing. Jordan Poole has a massive role. Jalen Suggs has a big role.
Ben Carroll's still out, right? So
what?
Yeah. Kuzma's playing. So
yeah, that's true. Maybe Poole isn't quite as appealing as usual, but Spida is still there. Halliburton at 8.1 looks pretty good. Any interest in those guys? Are you kind of going like the punt versus way up top at point guard today?
I'm getting to some Halliburton because 8-1 is pretty affordable for him, but I don't really like the matchup against the Magic. It does have a tight spread. I don't know. It's the first game of the night. I feel like he's playable, but I don't really want to do it, honestly.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jared McCain, 4.5. Yeah,
Wallace.
I don't want.
We played his brother last night, Keaton Wallace. Now we can play Cason Wallace for OKC if we want.
I just don't see the need. There's other really good values. I like Noel. I like McCain, and I like Rollins.
McCain's going to be a total smash now, right?
Yeah, I would think.
He's already playing without Maxey, and now he's
he was already getting 31 minutes a game.
Oubre, I think, are going to be the
dude, he's been killing offensively. 18, 27, 23 real points.
He seems to be good.
I think so. But yeah, I think like Halliburton and Spida are fine. Very good price point plays. But there's just so much crazy deep value on this slate that I don't really see myself getting to them, especially with so much of it coming at guard. So right now, I think I'm kind of gravitating towards a Giannis Wemby build, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, Shea might go a little overlooked now because there is all this cheap stuff at point guard.
Yeah, unless you don't want to play Jalen Noel, which is arguable to not do that. But he's only 3.4. I always find it hard to turn away from anybody at 3 to 3.5K if they're starting and probably getting 30 minutes. Like, it's pretty easy to pay off that price tag. Yeah. So, anyways, any other punts at point guard besides the 3 guys we already highlighted? I don't think so.
I mean, I guess Karis LeVert, not really a punt, but he's okay.
Oh yeah, you said Miles McBride. One of the ones that I will mention would be Stephon Castle. He's been getting good minutes. Played, I think 31 minutes in this last game, 35 the game before that. I don't think he's going to be a priority for me here because I like the other guys more. But he is a pivot off of McCain if you want to go that route, and if you just don't want to play Noel, you could also play him over him. So that probably does it there. But yeah, you got to really just figure out what studs you want, and that's like going to be the hardest thing for this slate because you can get whoever you want, I think. It's just going to depend on who you pick. So definitely we'll play the ownership game a lot. Like you said, shooting guard is a wasteland. Donovan Mitchell and Jaylen Brown lead the way with 38 and 37-point fantasy projections. Not great. That's not what I want to pay up for on this slate. Those guys are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They just don't look like priorities at all. So shooting guard is punt city for me, dude. McCain's going to be my guy at shooting guard, and I'm going to play with Rollins and or Noel at point guard. But if you're going to pay up here, anything over like 6K, who are you liking the most?
It's like Mitchell by default, I think. I just think he's still a little bit underpriced. The matchup's going to be good. I do think they're going to nuke them, of course. So blowout concern, but Mitchell can still pay off that salary in 3/4, I think. So if you're looking for something to pay up for, I think it's him because there's really nobody else. Like I'm not going to go out of my way to get Cam Thomas against Boston. Maybe the Knicks, maybe Mikal Bridges looks a little better if Brunson is out. McBride, another one you can play here. Malik Beasley. I just much prefer McCain to Beasley. I just think he's going to be a way more stable play in that range. But Beasley's still playable given the minutes, I think.
I'm very hopeful that there is some ownership going towards Beasley. Beasley would be an okay play.
Beasley
at
might
4.2K.
get overlooked now, like as we've talked it through. Like there's so much other stuff to like on the cheap end. Rollins, McCain, maybe McBride. Like I could see Beasley kind of going through the cracks, which would make him a little more appealing, but super low floor with him.
Okay, so I think we're aligned here as far as like the cheap guards. We're going Rollins and McCain for sure. Would you definitely go McBride over Noel if McBride is in and Brunson is out?
Not definitely, just because McBride is like $900 more expensive than Noel, but he's going to be great. Like he's going to play 35 to 40 minutes. So I'm not certain that's the case with Noel. New Orleans still has guys they can play. They're not guys that we know, but they do have some bodies. They have this, like, I think his name is Reeves or something, but yeah.
Antonio Reeves.
Yeah. McBride is going to be fine. I think Noel's fine too. If McBride is lower owned, like if we don't get that news until after, the lock at the first game locks, then maybe he's a little bit more intriguing than Noel, who should be popular all day long, I would think. But there are other guys here. OKC still without Chet. You got Isaiah Joe, more expensive than he was the other day, but good role for him. Lou Dort, not the most exciting play, but the minutes are there for him as well. And Oubre, we haven't talked about. He's 7K, but someone has to score for Philadelphia, and I think he's worth a shot, even in a game that might get out of hand by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
Also Brandon Boston. Like
I was just gonna say Boston would have been my next guy. 6K,
score, and he's the one. I think he's the only guy left.
Huge role. 35 plus minutes in 4 straight games. 35 plus fantasy points in 3 of 4. So obviously blowout risk there too. A little bit less steady of a play than Noel, just when you're looking at price, because he's like double the price. But as far as role goes, he looks great. And $1,000 cheaper than Oubre. I definitely prefer Boston over Oubre, but you're not wrong. I mean, Oubre is going to have tons of usage. So if that game stays close, he easily could get 40 to 50 fantasy points tonight if he hits the shots. There's other guys too, ancillary guys here we can look at, like Mathurin, Carrington. You mentioned Isaiah Joe. There's other pieces, but I think for the most part, for me, McCain is the guy at shooting guard. I like McBride and Noel too. All right, let's kick it over to small forward.
I will add Jalen Green. Like Van Vliet is questionable.
Oh yeah, for a GPP, no doubt.
Van Vliet is out. Jalen Green going to be playable as well. Oops.
Oh, and we can touch on him here because we're sliding over to small forward. But Amen Thompson at 5.8K. If Fred VanVleet is out again, he looks awesome at 5.8K. He had 39 fantasy points in just 28 minutes last game. The game got out of hand, so maybe he would have played more. Just a stat stuffer, dude. He does everything. He's a good per minute guy. So obviously he looks pretty appealing here at 5.8. Now, if Fred VanVleet is in, I don't have any interest in Amen at 5.8, and then maybe that would free me up to do something else. But as it stands, he looks like a core play, in my opinion. So as small forward, starting up top, Jason Tatum is 10.3K, coming in with almost a 50-point fantasy projection. Per usual, he is in play, although I think he busted yesterday.
He was pretty mid.
Even Jason Tatum busting got 44 fantasy points, matching Giannis. How annoying. So annoying. Okay, but
You're obviously not happy if you played either of them, of course. So
that's true. But he's facing the Nets. He looks great. Obviously, blowout risk there for sure. And there are, the other studs look a little bit better, but nothing wrong with Tatum. I'm probably not going to get there, but if you want to play Tatum, the price is fine. Right behind him is Franz Wagner and Brandon Ingram. Both dudes are they're 8.5, 8.8K, good projections. Ingram does not have a good matchup, and he has no viable threats around him, so that might not go great. Wagner has a much better matchup, and he's coming off a crazy good game where he didn't even play the fourth, and he's still like 50 or 60 fantasy points. It's crazy. So he looks awesome. Franz Wagner looks great. If I'm going to spend up, Wagner's the play for me at small forward.
Yeah, pretty clearly. Not much to add. I think Tatum's okay. Like, he's going to be low owned, I think, on this slate, and he's someone you can pay up for on a slate with a ton of value, and that by default puts him in play. Matchup's pretty good too against Brooklyn. Don't mind it. The Knicks, Hart, Anunoby, Bridges, all playable here, I think, as well. Anunoby being the best value of the three, but the minutes are just insane for all of them, and they're playing Chicago, who leads the league in pace. So regardless of the news, I think Anunoby and Hart look pretty interesting. Boston, Ingram, I agree, they're fine. Matherin's a little bit expensive at this point. Aaron Wiggins is reasonably priced. If we're going to be playing a lot of Knicks, I don't mind correlating that with a bring back from Chicago. In theory, if the Knicks are going to hit their ceilings, the Bulls keep the game close. And that alone puts Levine in play for 6,800. I think he's okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything there. I think I'm going to double down on your point that even if Brunson and all those Knicks guys are in, the Knicks look awesome. It's the best matchup of the slate. The Bulls play very fast, and they do not play defense. And the Knicks play the whole fucking game. So there's nothing to hate there. And honestly, none of them are like egregiously priced. None of their guys are over 9K. So you could fire up a lot of the Knicks guys and kind of, they're probably going to go overlooked because all the other things that are looking good about this slate too. So lots to like about New York today. The only issue is going to be if Brunson and or McBride are out, they will end up being popular at that point. So I kind of hope those guys are in. And then if you want to, you can probably get low owned next guys that look good, regardless of the way the slate looks.
Agreed.
All right, cool. So at power forward, Giannis comes in with the best projection, pushing for 62 fantasy points. He opened with 65, but still clearing 60 is nice. He is very expensive at 11.5K. But as things are kind of piecing together here, I'm going to hope recency bias keeps his ownership in check a little bit. But given all the value, I doubt it. I don't really care, though. He just looks like a really good play once again against the Pistons. And the value might make him a necessity, to be honest. We already mentioned Tatum and Wagner. Those guys look totally fine. Prefer Wagner over Tatum, but both are in play for sure. But Giannis is the top power forward. He's probably the best overall spend on the slate as far as raw points go. And I'm not really seeing that much else as far as like paying up at power forward that I would be interested in.
I don't mind Mobley, still under 8K, been quite good this season. If you want to play a bunch of Sixers, again, playing a Cav on the other side is not the worst idea. Mobley's someone who's pretty easy to slot in there, but there is, and Siakam, similar argument, like he's expensive, but they're without, I think, Aaron Nesmith or someone like that. So the minutes have been pretty stable for him. He's going to be pretty low owned, I think, on this slate. There is other value here, though. The Knicks, again, you can play Yabusele for Philly, 4,300. No Embiid, George, or Maxey. Going to have a role. He's cheap. They need size against Cleveland, so Yabusele's a big dude. So I think he looks like a strong value. I think Caleb Martin, not super excited about that. I think he's a little overpriced, but still playable. Trey Murphy might be limited. He was limited in his first game back. Trying to find out what he played. My cat's
26 minutes, I think.
Yeah, 25 minutes. He's
not
cheap
bad for the
where
first
I
game
think
back.
You can take a shot on it, but matchup's pretty poopy, so I'm not dying to do it.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. I think the Evan Mobley call is okay, just because Hart is already carrying ownership at 21% at 6.6K, so you're paying 1.2K more to get a little bit different. He's coming in about half the ownership of Hart. I'm probably just going to go Hart there because he is sandwiched between Mobley and Siakam in terms of projection, but he's like right there and you're saving like 1,000. So I think Hart is the play. That feels like decent chalk as things stand. But again, we don't know what the ownership is going to be like in 5 hours or whatever. So But yeah, it's pretty much Giannis here for me. But what about like punts? Is there anybody you think you mentioned a couple already? You mentioned Aaron Wingids, OG Anunoby at 5.7 is totally fine. He's carrying a lot of ownership right now. And you mentioned all these other guys, Tari Eason, Ubaselli. I don't mind the Ubaselli one at 4.3K as long as he starts. Is he projected to start?
No. Or yeah, he is by RG. But
yeah, so that's totally fine. Another guy I'll mention that looks pretty interesting would be Torian Prince at 4.2K. I don't want to say he busted yesterday. He had some foul trouble, but all things considered, he played. He had 21 fantasy points in 22 minutes because he had 4 fouls. The game before that, though, he had 38 minutes. So if Dame is out again, Prince will have a boost in usage, and he should play probably 35 minutes if he can keep his hands to himself. All right. Let's wrap it up at center. Leading the way here is Giannis. So if you like Giannis, you're right there with us. Wemby is second in terms of raw points projection at center. He's 10.9K. Gets the Wizards. It's like one of the best matchups on the board. I mean, if I'm just comparing them in terms of price and matchup and all that stuff, like ceiling and everything, Wemby feels like a really overlooked play right now. He's only coming at 8% ownership. So if nothing changed dramatically on this slate, it'd be really hard to not play Wemby at that ownership. But obviously they both look awesome. And then Cat is third in projection at center with 48 fantasy points. He looks really good. Even if Brunson's in, he looks like a core play if Brunson is out, however. And then we didn't touch on these guys yet because they're center. Jalen Williams center only. Okay. And then we have Şengün, who I love. His projection is not where I want it to be, and Zubac is not really the most fun draw at center. But both Şengün and Jalen Williams look like pretty darn good. But yeah, all those top guys look awesome. It's going to be hard to get away from Giannis and Wemby, though. What's your priority here?
It's going to be Giannis, I assume, but that galls me to no end. But I'm assuming he's going to actually play well tonight.
That's
we'll see.
Bold.
I don't know
bold assumption.
If I'm going to play him at center, though, just because there's kind of a lot to like at center. Like Towns, even if Brunson's in, is fine. If Brunson's out, he's going to be kind of a smash against the Bulls at 8,700. Andre Drummond is going to start for Embiid. His minutes have been kind of wonky. Even when Embiid was out, he was not necessarily playing like a full allotment of minutes with Yabusele behind him. But if they start together, they don't really have the option to bench Drummond for Yabusele. So I feel okay about it, even with the caveat of the blowout risk in that game. Miles Turner looks okay, I guess. Jalen Williams being center only is super weird, but whatever. Good play. Şengün's going to look better if Van Vliet is out. I don't mind the value on Claxton. His minutes have been up a little bit of late. He's only 6K flat. He's fine. If you're looking for someone cheap, I guess it's Mo Wagner against Indiana with Wendell Carter still out. He's okay. Yabusele is probably going to pull the ownership in that range among the cheap centers. So the elder Wagner looks okay enough. And then Keita, I guess you can throw into the mix with Horford out for Boston.
Yeah, this center-only garbage for Jalen is so stupid. He projects better than Şengün, so in a vacuum, he's the better play. But in terms of ownership, I think I prefer Şengün here. Same price, close enough projection. Williams has the better matchup, but his game is also much more likely to blow out. So I think if that's the ownership, if Jalen's going to be 20% or more owned and Şengün's going to be under 10%, I love Şengün here. So if you don't want to pay up for Wemby and or you slide Giannis to power forward, Şengün looks pretty interesting. Towns is going to be it looks like he's going to be pretty chalky regardless of what happens. So I don't know how I feel about that because there's just like, I mean, if you play Towns and he gets like 40 and then Giannis gets like 80 or Wemby gets 70, it's going to feel real stupid. But Towns looks awesome. There's nothing wrong with Towns at 8.7K. I like him a lot. But honestly, I'm going to kind of get a lot of exposure to Giannis, Wemby, Cat, Jalen, and Şengün. That's where I'm going to live at center. I'm going to pay for center for sure on the slate. Probably going to play at least 2 of them, I think, as things are looking. And if you don't play SGA, I think you can play 3. You know, pretty comfortably so. So that might be where I'm headed, just because those guys have the easiest path to a double-double, and they can get those blocks and steals as well. So easy path to extra points. As far as punts at center, have we gotten to that yet? There's definitely some other low mid-range guys to look at, like Nick Claxton, Jalen Duren, Hunter Drummond with no Embiid playing. I guess you could at 6.6K. You did mention Mo Wagner. What other punts are we looking at for center?
I guess Goga in the same lineup is fine, assuming he's continuing to start. But I think it's largely a pay up. Like, I think Drummond is a very obvious and easy play on this slate. Elite per minute, no Embiid and all that. But I guess you could be concerned about the blowout. But I'm just going to get a lot of them, I think.
The problem with Drummond, obviously, there's blowout risk, but he has not been like the smash play. They're not giving him the minutes to be the smash play.
That's what I already said. I said that they're benching him for Yabusele, but if they start together, then they're not really going to do that. So
that's true.
Plus, Cleveland has 2 centers that they start, so I assume they're going to need his size for as long as the game's competitive.
Yeah, that's fair. Good point.
And then Allen, I think if he plays, I think Allen's questionable. 7K flat's okay. He's been really horrible lately, but good matchup.
There's also Neemias Queta at 4.5K with Al Horford ruled out and Porzingis still out. You said him already too? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one. Okay, so I think we must have touched on all the value that, because I'm not really seeing anybody else that pops out. All right. So to wrap things up, let's go with your major number one flag plant of the slate and your general strategy that you're going to be implementing. Oh, Taylor got bounced. All right, so I'll just go with mine. So I think my flag plant here is going to be, it's probably going to be Wemby. And right now it's just based off of ownership and projection and ceiling. We know Wemby has a monster ceiling. He had 70 fantasy points in his last game. That's not the first time he's had 70 plus fantasy points on the season. And the Wizards are an amazing matchup. So he comes in with the third best projection of the entire slate. And right now he's coming in at under 8% ownership. I don't know if that's going to hold given all the value we do have available to us. But if it does, yeah, I want 8% owned Wemby on my team for sure. And I also do think this is a stars and scrubs night. Often when we have a situation like this, I do want to just go get as many really good plays as possible. But I just don't like the idea of passing up Wemby and Giannis and all these guys when there's just incredible value on the slate. And honestly, it's 1 o'clock Central. Much more value could present itself and make that even more so the case. And I'm looking at Noel, McCain, Rollins. These guys look like borderline core plays as things stand. Taylor did make a good point about Noel with the Pels, just that they do have other bodies. So he would definitely need to start for me to feel good about him. And also in general, keep an eye on the Knicks situation. If Brunson is indeed out and McBride is in, Miles McBride would look really good. And then if he's out and Campaign is in, he would also look really good. So my general strategy is going to be stars and scrubs on this slate. Hard to fade guys like Franz Wagner, Brandon Ingram, and these nice guys like right around the 8 to 9K range. Jalen Brunson. But it's hard to pass up on the massive ceiling with all this value. All right. Hopefully this all helps you out a little bit and helps you with your process and points you in the right direction. If it did, give this video a like and also consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching and good luck.